Well, that's right. You see, that's how I feel. The thumbnail. My
Mhm.
head's down, my hands in hand warmers, 2 feet of snow here in Roxborough, Mace. And yeah, I've dug out. And now I'm digging out my feelings of Sam Howell not going to Denver, but going to Seattle.
Yeah, this one was kind of a thunderbolt. Some of these quarterbacks have been off the board. Sam Darnold didn't really bother me that he was going off the board. Sam Howell, however, this is somebody who I think would have fit the model of someone who could be a bridge, but also had some potential upside, another arrow to shoot at the target of finding a franchise quarterback. And on a very friendly contract cap wise, the team trading from the Seattle Seahawks won't even have a $1 million cap figure for Sam Howell this year. But that also, I think, contributed to the trade value. And you and I had talked about a 5th-round pick, Cease, as trade value for Sam Howell. It ended up being more than that in the final sum.
Right. A pick swap, basically, Mace. You've got the details. Let's go over it. And Seattle hoses the Broncos again because now they get a guy, they get an upgrade from Drew Locke. And everyone wants to know who could be the Baker Mayfield this year. It's Sam Howell. And I wanted him here in Denver. You wanted him here in Denver. That's our Howell May dream dies in part today. But the compensation means there was a little activity. It'll be curious to dig on how much the Broncos were active in that, if they were active at all. But Mace, the compensation tells me there was more than one team bidding. I can guess who the other team was.
Yeah, who do you guess, Cease?
Denver. But that compensation, and you don't give that compensation because nobody's interested. The Mac Jones thing, that's a 6, whatever. No. Sam Howell gets that compensation because, there's a bidding war.
If you go by the Jimmy Johnson model, it's the equivalent of the 95th overall pick. If you go by the Rich Hill model, it's the equivalent of the 111th overall pick. So 95 late in round 3, 111 late in round 4. Why are those significant? Well, a couple of things come into play. Number one, the Broncos have only 2 picks in the first 120, right? They pick, of course, they pick number 12 in the first round. Then you have to go all the way to round 3, and they pick number 76. So, unfortunately, this type of deal probably would have involved sacrificing your 3rd-round pick. By the way, it's interesting to look at Seattle because Seattle has 2 3rd-round picks, 78 and 81. Why do they have 2 3rd-round picks? Because the Broncos gave them a 3rd-round pick in order to move up and take Riley Moss last year.
Yep.
So
stings the nostrils.
There you go. The bill comes due in a lot of ways. And so a person at quarterback who I think if the Broncos were going to bring in a veteran could have been the most budget-friendly one and had upside. Now he's off the board. And I would say it now appears more likely that if the Broncos do bring in another quarterback, it's not going to be someone of whom you're saying, oh, there's upside. Oh, this could be the answer for a few years here in case the 1st-round pick or whenever you draft a quarterback doesn't work out. It really is just going to be a bridge type. If it's Jimmy Garoppolo, if it's Ryan Tannehill, or if it's none of them and it's just Jarrett Stidham and probably a 1st-round pick.
Yes. And saving your picks, Mace, for multiple reasons. Before I get to that theory, I will ask you this. Adam Peters is Washington's new GM. I don't think the Broncos staff in scouting, which is very strong, I don't think they've been as strong without Adam Peters. He goes to the 49ers. They allow him to go to the 49ers. He does really good work with John Lynch. There's a relationship there. So in a business of relationships, was that not a factor? I don't want to overstep my bounds and be like, George Payton's bad at making deals. Like, I don't think that's the case. But I felt a little cozy with Adam Peters. Like, oh, hey, yeah, we always got Adam Peters, right there. He's the guy. And Well, that connection didn't work.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it didn't work. I was going to say at first, I'm like, where are you going with this? Because what's the connection between Adam Pearce and Seattle, right? As opposed to Denver.
Right.
I think this comes down to, this may well come down to something similar with Sam Darnold. With Sam Darnold, the Broncos, there was there was interest. There wasn't a contract. There was interest in Sam Darnold, but the price point reached the level where the Broncos like, nope, we're going to walk away. And can't confirm or deny this just yet. We're just simply reacting to this, but very possible the Broncos had a price point that, in terms of draft capital, that they didn't feel they wanted to go past, and thus you move on. Look, if you get your quarterback answer in the draft, problem solved, right?
Right.
That's the thing here. It's still draft first, but you and I have talked about how you want that bridge to be sturdy enough to where you don't have to insert a young quarterback before he's ready. I think Sam Howell could have been that. I'm not convinced. I'm still not convinced Jarrett Stidham can be that. And it's why I still expect him to add a quarterback, but it was a better idea, I think, to add somebody on a really low cap figure who had some upside rather than if you go the older quarterback route. Maybe you're paying a bit more. And oh, by the way, there's a strict end point on this. This is if it's Ryan Tannehill or Jimmy Garoppolo, both of them have had plenty of injuries in recent years. As I stammer over it, their bridges and nothing more.
Yes, that's right. And the kid will be ready when the kid's ready. And I'm fascinated, Mace, by the business of the Walton Penner Group and how they conduct business. I think it's good. I think it's really good. It's smart. So if you have a price and the price is getting pushed up there, like, you're not going to let that market push you around. Like, that's the price we're going to pay. Sam Darnold, it wasn't 10 million. With Sam Howell, too many Sams. It wasn't, whatever, Seattle, all the stuff, the pick swap they did with Seattle. And I like that. And I like that especially because some of those picks, Mace, might be throw-ins for the Broncos to move up from 12. They're going to move up from 12. They almost have to, in my opinion.
Unless they're targeting Bo Nix.
More on him on OBT too.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. The Broncos didn't have a GM or scout or GM or coach at Bo Nix's pro day. They had two of their scouts out there at Bo Nix's pro day. But that's not really newsworthy. There was, I believe, one head coach or GM on hand for Bo Nix's pro day, and that was Matt Eberflus and a sizable Bears contingent. And that's interesting. But the biggest reason why you saw a light turnout of GMs and coaches in Eugene for the pro day is because of when it happened. It happened on the second day of the legal tampering period.
Right.
So, of course, you weren't going to have a robust turnout there. The coaches and GMs were busy with other things like trying to burn up the phone lines and find their next set of players.
Quickly on that, and I suppose I should save the Nick stuff for a little bit later, but I'm like fascinated. I'll put a pin on that. Put a pin on this. This one's about Howell and missing out on Howell. And I was thinking of a Ryan Tannehill press conference, if that ends up being the guy. One question that I would like asked, or I will ask, is, are you ready to teach a rookie? Are you comfortable with that? And I believe Tannehill would be. I certainly know Jimmy Garoppolo would. And, well, he can't play the first two games anyway. So, mentor away, Jimmy G.
Yeah, exactly. And, I know people may be watching this and thinking, okay, what about a Justin Fields? What about a Trey Lance? No indication there's any interest in either of them from the Broncos. I guess the question I should ask you is, should the Broncos be interested in Justin Fields?
At this point, with the asking price being so low, I'd take a chance on that athleticism, and just see what could happen. Okay,
so the asking price on Sam Howell proved to be the equivalent of a late third, early fourth.
Yes.
Now, Justin Fields has a more expensive contract. He's also in the last year of it, whereas Sam Howell has 2 years left. So what would you say the value is on Justin Fields compared to Sam Howell?
with no market, we're talking about a 6th rounder. I mean, it's like the Mac Jones thing. And when it's that low, it's worth a chance.
Yeah. And think about that. We're having these conversations about quarterbacks. Sam Howell comes into the league 1 year later than Mac Jones. Mac Jones has a season where he helps a team to the playoffs before things devolve. He goes for a 6th round pick. Sam Howell goes for a 3rd round pick, or late 3rd, early 4th equivalent, basically. That's pretty significant. It tells you about how length of the contract matters. And frankly, I think another thing it says is how presence matters. Now, that being said, the critiques of Sam Howell leadership, they do not exist for Justin Fields at all. He's not, Justin Fields isn't trying to injure somebody the way Mac Jones did, right? So it's a little bit different. So Sam Howell, I think, perceived as a higher character quarterback than Mac Jones. So between that and the contract, that's the difference. Justin Fields, same length on the contract going into the final year of his rookie deal. Also, like Sam Howell, well regarded in the locker room in which he played. And I think that means I think if you kind of distill it down, you're probably looking at a value somewhere in between. Even though there may not be a market for Justin Fields, I think the value probably ends up settling in somewhere, but round 5. I think you split the difference between Sam Howell and Mac Jones there on the value.
Okay. And then you could have Pat Surtain and Justin Fields and
oh my God, that would be
imagine our friends in the media that would love that.
That would be hilarious. But the thing is, about Justin Fields, I'm intrigued. I think you'd be intrigued. The question is Sean Payton intrigued? Because you just moved off a quarterback who had trouble doing things in rhythm and timing. He can make things happen beyond play structure. What is Justin Fields' strength? Making things happen beyond play structure.
Right. And there's development as a passer that can be done with Justin Fields. So I wouldn't mind seeing it. I don't think they will, but
I wouldn't either.
The price tag's so low. And ask 2 of his teammates about him. They love him. Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper. I've talked to both about him.
Yeah.
They love Fields in the day. And Chicago guys love him. I mean, Chicago, in keeping Fields and drafting Caleb, which is what they do, you're creating a problem in your locker room because that locker room loves Justin Fields.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it. Now, I think Justin Fields would handle it very well. He's proven that he can handle thorny situations with a great deal of grace and class, and I expect this would be no different. However, an upset locker room that would maybe rather play for Justin than for Caleb Williams, that's a recipe for disaster, and it certainly doesn't help Caleb Williams coming in there developing.
Right. Kind of putting a kid against the wall, but like Justin Fields with that athleticism, and if there's perceived growth or what have you with Sean Payton, I guess the whole conversation about these quarterbacks, Mace, it just comes back to your faith in Payton. You and I both have a lot of faith in Sean Payton to take a quarterback and make him the best version of himself. He's done it before. Kerry Collins wasn't, even though a 1st round pick, and he had some physical tools, but it's like Kerry Collins wasn't tearing up the league. Sean Payton got the best out of him, got him to a Super Bowl. I wouldn't mind seeing him work with the physical talent and a young mind. Russ is old. Russ, an old dog, man. Old dog's not going to learn new tricks. Maybe Fields would.
Exactly. And these other possibilities, again, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo. Ryan Tannehill, year 13. Jimmy Garoppolo, year 11. I'd rather see this team look young. Actually, I'll throw another name in who doesn't seem to be getting a lot of traction, but again, this is also kind of a locker room thing. Carson Wentz.
Oh boy.
Your reaction said all right there.
Yeah, well, I won't reveal too much, but there's certain teammates that he warms up to, and they're people with similar interests to him. And if you're not like one of Carson's guys, he just doesn't throw to you. You're not his guy. You don't like what he likes. He doesn't throw to you. Maybe that's changed because he's not the franchise with the Eagles anymore. But that was the case in Philadelphia. I heard some of the same stuff out of Indianapolis too. Like he's kind of picky about who he uses, even if some of the guys he's not using are very talented.
And you're saying it's not related to skill sets, related to personality.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, interests.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good thing.
No. NFL locker room got all sorts of different personalities.
Which explains why Carson Wentz in short order went from Philadelphia to Indianapolis, from Indianapolis to Washington, from Washington to basically being unwanted, and then the Rams pick him up off the scrap heap to be a backup because they needed something better than Brett Rippon, who was their backup behind Matthew Stafford.
Right.
And where is Brett Rippon today? He's a Chicago Bear.
Mm-hmm.
The same team, at least for the moment, as Justin Fields.
Right.
See how this all kind of comes together. But Carson Wentz, man. Oh, boy.
Well, I'm going to quote Yoda, and I'll bring back a blast from the past. There is another. I'm getting some questions about Jake Browning. We've talked about him. They did tender him as an ERFA.
Yeah.
So you would have to trade for Jake Browning. I would rather have Jake Browning than Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, and certainly over Carson Wentz.
But the thing is how much we should have to give up. I mean, would you say that Jake Browning on the trade market is the equivalent of Sam Howell?
It's going to be close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some who may value Jake Browning higher than Sam Howell because what Jake proved last year playing in Zach Taylor's system in Cincinnati, he can operate a rhythm and timing-based offense on schedule. And as a backup, he is an absolute blessing for the Bengals because you put him in there, you still have a shot. Like if you're the Bengals, you'd have to have your socks knocked off to give him up. And I don't think the Broncos would give such an offer, nor would they be wise to. Like, I don't think you're sitting there saying, give a third round pick for Jake Browning. I think if you did that, you'd be fit to be tied. Right. And if the Broncos offered one of those 3 5th-round picks for Jake Browning, frankly, if I'm Cincinnati, I'm like, no, this dude almost had us in the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it sounds great. There is another. I just don't think there's any realistic chance of that happening.
I agree with that. And I will say this. Are we getting clues? 1, it's a first-round quarterback, everybody. 2, I believe they will move up. 3, Mace, are we getting clues now with this line? There's a line for Sam Darnold. Okay. There's a line for Sam Howell. We're disappointed, but okay. But are we getting clues that, like, the kid's going to play? Because Stidham shouldn't be a bridge more than a couple of weeks. So, the kid, if it's Drake May, if it's J.J. McCarthy, if it's Bo Nix, the kid's going to play probably as soon as possible.
And you just hope the kid is ready. You don't, the thing I always counsel against is you don't want to do damage to that player's development by putting him out there too soon. So you've got to be mentally strong and you've got to live with the bumps. And that's where, like, if you're Sean Payton and you're throwing that quarterback out there, you've got to accept that there are going to be sometimes it looks ugly. The notion of it being like CJ Stroud, that's wonderful to think about, but that doesn't happen very often where he comes in and it's just, CJ Stroud, pretty much a top 10 quarterback the moment he stepped on the field, right? Remarkable, but that rarely happens. Usually there's more bumps along the way. You have to live with that. If you can live with that, and if the quarterback in question can maintain their confidence and poise and not be shattered if they're thrown out there too soon, then that's fine. But that's part of what you're evaluating right now. It's part of what you're figuring out as you dive into these quarterbacks. Who can handle that? If you believe that Drake May can handle that, then move up and get Drake May. Do it. Just do it.
Yep.
Okay? I am a little sad about missing out on Sam Howell, though.
I know. And Seattle getting him. Seattle is like Khan in Star Trek parlance, right? Like, gone. Seattle Seahawks, 12th man.
God! Like that? You gotta do it. You gotta stretch it out. Or actually, I gotta do it with the communicator. Like, he's holding the communicator. It's like and Shatner's face, like, twitches, right? John! Like that. Yeah, I hope.
Don't blow out those vocal cords, buddy. It's how you make your money.
I backed away from the microphone. I hope that helped. Maybe I should have turned the levels.
Well, I'm
down.
worried about your throat, right? Don't mess up those vocal cords.
You gotta, yeah, you do kind of, yeah, I can feel
it's
that.
More guttural, right?
Yeah. But I think the key to the whole thing is like the facial twitch that Shatner has. Like, you know what? That's where the lion face, lemon face comes into play. That helps you. That's the sort of thing that gets you ready for acting.
We're ready. We're ready for the Broncos to get their quarterback. We're going to talk Bo Nix coming up on OBT2 tonight. YouTube exclusive, probably around 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So make sure to look for that. So plenty of Bo Nix conversation. Is he the hidden one? Is he the forgotten one? Is he the under the radar one? That's coming up. It is OBT2. Programming note, I will be on assignment on Friday. So Mace, it'll be you and Parker Gabriel on Friday's edition of OBT. So that'll be fun for sure.
That's our plan, is to do a show, keep on talking, and maybe we'll have another acquisition or two to talk about by then. We shall see.
That is correct. He is Andrew Mason, and he's going to help us out on YouTube. Buddy, how do you do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never miss a vid. That's right. Andrew Mason can be followed on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is OBT, and it is ABFD. We appreciate you all. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty.